I make sure to stay away from ultra-controversial topics in my videos, but when culture war battle lines advance to the point at which cooking fats are discussed with the same fervor as bathroom bills, it's time to step in. I don't want to make a snarky dunk fest in which I jab at seed oil haters, partially because I don't think they're all crazy, and partially because that behavior just exacerbates the culture war element of what should just be a food conversation. I'm going to speak as objectively, literally, and normal guiedly as I can for the first half of this video. A portion at the end will contain my own perspective, but I want to start off with some objectively true, uncontroversial cornerstones on which we can all first agree. 1. A person can get sick on any diet. A person can get healthy on any diet. It's fun to share headlines about a 100-year-old who attributes her longevity to cigarettes and fatback. It is vindicating to see someone who consumes the foods that you hate has been met with bad health outcomes. You see vegans share stories of carnivores who suffered from early heart attacks, and you see keto folks share stories of vegetarians who are wasting away. Let us start by acknowledging that if there was one ideal diet for every human, we would all just eat that. Instead, we are all little snowflakes with different dietary needs. That should be neither surprising nor controversial. 2. I, the guy on your screen, am not a fit person. Viewers may use this as an opportunity to write off what I have to say, as if good advice can only come from those with an ideal physique. I am prepared for that, I am acknowledging it, and it's valuable to be upfront about my shortcomings. I am not a doctor, I am not a scientist. I do think that works in my favor today because of how many people hold an outright distrust of authority figures. A ripped, handsome guy in a white coat saying, "Chill everyone, seed oils are good for you," stands to have the opposite effect on a certain demographic who would call him a paid shill. 3. Fad diets have always existed and always will. Remember, this is still the objective truth portion, so I'm not calling seed oil aversion a fad diet. I just want to establish that fad diets are not a new phenomenon. Whether we look to the Atkins diet or that time where suddenly tons of people insisted that they were gluten intolerant, it starts off with legitimate reasons for specific people to avoid certain ingredients, but sometimes develops into a widespread craze that blows up beyond reason. 4. There is no universal consensus on what seed oils are. Many folks seem to disagree around the edges. Is a peanut a seed? How about coconuts? When we say avocado oil is fine, do we mean a hypothetical real avocado oil or the stuff you get in America where most of it is fake anyway? In this way, the term seed oil suffers from the same branding issue as processed. When I cut a carrot into matchsticks, I am processing it. I even have my very own food processor at home. When people say they're avoiding processed foods, they probably mean what's been labeled as ultra-processed. Unfortunately, when words like processed food or seed oil develop buzz, the conversation becomes muddy and ineffective. Should you be able to call any food item preservative-free if it contains salt? Salt is a preservative. This is annoying for everyone. I will say, I'm trying to avoid chemicals in my food, and some brain genius gets to dunk on me with everything's made out of chemicals. Checkmate, bazinga. Like, okay, bro, I think you know what I meant. The food world is so bad at maintaining defined terms, and companies will continue to try to take advantage of that as much as possible with phrases like free of added sugar or 100% juice. Cage-free barely means anything. Grass-fed doesn't mean grass-finished. So for the purposes of avoiding confusion, let us move forward assuming that by seed oils we are discussing the cheap, highly refined oils from rape seeds, grape seeds, sunflowers, and soybeans. Okay, here are the reasons to avoid seed oils in descending order of rationality. 1. My health professional told me to take it easy on them. This is the easiest, most reasonable reason to avoid a certain ingredient in your diet. Your doctor knows your body, your ailments, your goals, and your medical history. The key word here is my health professional, not a health professional. Look at this goober doctor giving medical advice to strangers in the YouTube comments. That is not how a well-educated medical professional acts. That's how a weirdo acts. 2. They do not taste good. Another valid reason to avoid eating something. If you don't like the taste of soy oil, why eat it? These fats are chosen for their high smoke point and their neutral, i.e. non-existent flavor. If I had the choice between Brussels sprouts pan-roasted in flavorless canola oil or Brussels sprouts fried in yummy beef fat, I'm picking the latter. 3. They're too cheap. There's something to be said about buying stuff for a price that's so low it makes you feel uncomfortable. This bag of donuts was $2. Kind of freaky. The uncomfortable feeling that certain foods for regular people are too cheap to be any good will keep Erewhon in business for 100 years. 4. They're too expensive. This might not apply to you since vegetable oil is usually the cheapest fat US dollars can buy, but depending on their cooking habits, home cooks get free animal fat anytime they render pork or trim a brisket. When I cook bacon, I save the bacon grease and fry eggs in it or make flour tortillas with it. When I buy a whole chicken, I render the fat down and use it to cook potatoes. 5. Seed oils just give me the heebie-jeebies. You can say this about certain types of fats, just like I can say this about blue cheese. Everyone's allowed to decide which foods squeak them out too much to deem worthy for consumption. Well-adjusted adults also understand that one can expect a certain level of social ribbing from folks who are like, what do you mean you don't like olives, you weirdo? I grew up an extremely picky eater, and even though I grew out of it, certain foods still trigger that unreasonable, illogical, I don't want to try it reaction within me. So whether it's bottled oil or chicken feet, it's your mouth, and whatever you don't want to eat is ultimately up to you. 6. Seed oils are in virtually every type of nasty, awful junk food, and avoiding them is an important act of resistance. This is where things can get a little hairy. I think we can all agree heavily salted, ultra-processed, pre-made junk food is not good for you. The act of breading factory-farmed, antibiotic-laden chicken nuggets in bleached flour and cheap oil, then deep frying it, freezing it, and selling it for $1 a pound at a big box grocery store should incur some karmic debt upon the soul. Billions of people can agree that these chicken nuggets are deeply unhealthy, but those billions of people might group up into different sects that blame one aspect of the Dino Nuggets' godforsaken existence above all the others. A vegan might say, of course, meat is murder and it's unhealthy. Someone with celiac might say, the gluten in those types of foods causes inflammation, which leads to a whole host of health issues. And naturally, the seed oil haters will wish for an option coated in lard or tallow instead. In the same way that some people might say, have you noticed that 90% of shark attacks take place when ice cream sales are up? Some see the correlation between cheap oils and junk foods and think, gee whiz, we got to get these particular oils out of all of these products. I believe this is the part of my list where disordered thinking starts to creep in, because there's no one thing that makes a box of sugar cookies bad. They've got tons of sugar, attractive dyes, cheap fats, cheap grains. They're made in a factory full of underpaid workers and shipped from location to location by diesel truck in a plastic box, only for half of them to become stale and get thrown out in the trash. That being said, this is still somewhat of a reasonable mindset, because vegetable oil spends way too much time masquerading as more expensive dairy products, like it does in Cool Whip, which isn't whipped cream, Coffee Mate, which isn't milk, or shelf-stable pre-made buffalo sauce, which is no longer made with butter. 7. Someone on the internet told me that I have to avoid them. This one might be impossible to counter. 1 in 5 adults get their news from influencers. There's no reason for you to trust what I'm saying now over a doctor influencer with a six-pack. I know I'm not a seed oil shill because my bank statements don't show any deposits from Crisco or Mazola, but there's no reason for you to believe me when I say that, and I respect anyone's choice to doubt me. If my aim is to list all the reasons why some people avoid seed oils, someone online said I should is irrefutably one of the top reasons. I'm an influencer now. I know we stand to make significantly more money when we post inflammatory content. I know this video is not going to be a viral sensation because I'm not telling you who to be mad at or how angry you should be. In the event that you did want to hear my own personal preferences, I will stick them at the end of this video. 8. They used to be industrial lubricants. This is kind of a weird reason to avoid anything, since Viagra was originally a heart medicine and lobster used to be cat food. Are the health nuts avoiding quinoa because it used to be peasant food? Pizza Hut used to be one of the top kale buyers in the country because it looked good as decoration next to the pizza buffet. Kale is now seen as food. Health food even. By the way, beef tallow is still used as machine lubricant, so what's the point of this argument? Surely it's one only employed by folks who have never gone home with someone who keeps a jar of coconut oil by their bedside table. 9. I am a culture warrior. Eating animal fat is strong and smart, and cooking in vegetable oil is for sissies. Again, you are free to think that if you want. I don't understand why random strangers on the internet ride so hard against canola oil like it's a valuable personality trait, just like I don't understand why the New York Times rides for them. Like, well, actually, American Fruit Loops aren't that bad. They just contain butylated hydroxytoluene for freshness. Like, okay, folks, what are we doing here? Because it feels more about winning a war than being helpful. I have this reason this far down on the list because it's hard for me to regard certain culture war takes as earnestly held values when the lines that separate them get redrawn even more frequently than those around fad diets. Michelle Obama was a tyrant for messing with our fast food, telling us what we can and can't have, and now RFK is the weirdo for trying to get seed oils and dyes off the shelves. Sometimes a group of ideologues will think freedom to do as they please is priority number 1, and then a couple years later, it could become noble to ban the activities that they find abhorrent. 10. I am a mentally unwell psycho. I would love to leave this part out. I started this channel to talk about sandwiches I like to make, but some people earnestly believe that seed oils, aka sneed oils or goy oils, are pushed onto the populace by Jews in a covert plot to poison the Gentiles. Some Christians find it imperative to avoid fats that weren't mentioned in the Bible. Even though I don't believe these to be majority-held beliefs, they do need to be acknowledged. It's not enough, apparently, to believe in the power of big food and big pharma working hand in hand to grease up a never-ending pipeline from hungry kids to sick geezers. I put this last reason on the list not to lump all of the seed oil avoiders into this category, but because it is a reason. That's my list. I understand the response I'm inviting by covering a hot topic online to a big audience, but I think most well-adjusted adults can hear that list, process what's going on in this big noisy debate, and then start to seek out their own conclusions. For the avoidance of doubt, I would like to provide the conclusions that I've come to on my own so far. Again, I don't think that you should be compelled to think the same way as me, but I do think it's important to lay my biases bare. Use of the term seed oil sends out warning signs to me that the person I'm talking to might be someone I don't want to talk to for much longer, because it's a term that's rooted more so in mania than health. If someone told me they were going to try the Whole30 diet, I'd say, right on, that's so cool that you're on a journey to see how you feel after a month of eating nothing but whole foods, limited sugars, and less refined fats. However, if someone told me they're eliminating seed oils from their diet, I'd say, okay, but why? There's something about the language itself that raises might be online in a harmful way flags. Look at this guy who's freaking out about seed oils being poison. Hasn't he ever heard the phrase, the dose is the poison? Oh no, I accidentally got invested in the well-being of someone who's never heard the phrase, the dose is the poison. It's time for me to log off. Do I think seed oils are bad for me? Yes, duh, of course. Who thinks deep frying tater tots in a vat of canola oil is healthy? Am I worried that seed oil may be poison? No. I love poison. Hennessy is my favorite one of all. The most compelling detail I've heard so far is that these types of fats contain more omega-6 fatty acids than we need, but caring about the acid profile about your food's cooking fat is Olympian-level health consciousness, and yet it's everyday people complaining online about what kind of oil Chick-fil-A or McDonald's uses. Like, get real, you're never getting healthy McNuggets. I do personally avoid seed oils. I do avoid ultra-processed foods. I avoid artificial preservatives and extreme sodium content, not because I ask for nutritional info when I go out to eat at restaurants, but because I don't go out to restaurants that much. Every time I cook at home, I am happily and thoughtlessly avoiding massive inclusions of stabilizers and cheap fats that I would find in pre-made meals, even if I keep a bottle of canola in my cupboard. Eating at home is such a massive leg up in this arena that it's extremely annoying when I see brain geniuses in the comments being like, cool recipe, but you really shouldn't be cooking with peanut oil. Like, brother, are you being a net positive or a net negative on this effort to make people healthier if you bring analysis paralysis to stir-fried veggies and scaring people off making food at home? Glass cutting boards dull your knives, wood cutting boards harbor bacteria, and plastic cutting boards put microplastics in your food. Better to go out to eat where the choice can be made for you. When the options presented are calcifying your pineal gland with fluoride-laden tap water or storing a credit card's worth of polyethylene in your testicles with bottled water, nobody wins. I feel the same way talking about non-stick pans. Is cooking with Teflon toxic? I don't know. I sure wouldn't want to eat chips of non-stick coating that might flake off into my food, but I avoid that by following the manufacturer's instructions. I don't scrape my non-stick with metal utensils. I don't crank it over high heat until it smokes. The food world has no shortage of hucksters, but I'm not totally miffed by stainless steel brands who use customer fear to position themselves as non-toxic, because you know what? Maybe it would be a net positive if all the people who don't know how to cook stopped accidentally horking down forever chemicals. It's not something I worry about, because I cook my meals at home and I'm pretty good at cooking. The goal of this channel is to get you to that same place so you also don't have to freak out about Teflon and seed oils. I don't blame anyone for feeling helpless in this wild world of modern food, but taking control does a lot to reduce that helplessness. I stopped drinking fake sugars this year, not because a TikTok told me they were poison, but because when I took a months-long diary of everything I ate and drank, fake sugar correlated with days on which my tummy hurted. I feel better without them, and I feel even better knowing that I settled the debate internally with no need to crusade against strangers who disagree with me. I am pleased with the control I've gained. Look at these shelf-stable pre-cooked cookies. Hachiwawa, that is a lot of ingredients. They might all be poison, they might all be safe. My point is, there's a lot of them, and that makes certain people feel uneasy. I would encourage those people to gain control. Look at these refrigerated pre-made cookie doughs that, although I don't have to make from scratch, I do still have to bake from home. A noticeably shorter list of ingredients. It's got palm oil instead of butter. I don't like that, but hey, it's an improvement. And compare that to the top sugar cookie recipe from allrecipes.com, a normal website for regular people. A massive reduction in scary foreign ingredients, even if the baker uses vegetable oil instead of lard. What I'm trying to make clear here is that instead of pretending like sugar cookies will ever be health food, we need to let cooking at home be the goal. A home cook can avoid whichever ingredients they want. Try making a carrot cake out of kale. See what happens. I respect your right to never cook with corn oil ever again. It is not the seed oil avoiders I despise. It is the seed oil freaks. You have no idea how much I hate doing discourse online. If I could snap my fingers and have my way, everyone would just chill out and be normal. That goes for the Diet Coke addicts and the aspartame apologia accounts. Have opinions without demanding that others hold the same ones. It wasn't fun in the early aughts when we roasted vegans and CrossFitters like, don't worry, they'll let you know. And it's not fun now when it's the same answer to, how do you know someone's avoiding seed oils? As far as this channel is concerned, you can eat nothing but corn mush or caviar every day. As long as you are compelled to eat at home, I'm doing my job. Trade has paid to be mentioned at the end of this video. Whether you add dairy emulating vegetable oils, or nothing at all to your coffee, Trade is, in my opinion, the most advantageous place to buy your beans. I spent this year giving plenty of explanations as to why I think you as a coffee drinker should give Trade a try, but this time it's worth mentioning that Trade is a really good last-minute gift. You don't have to know the recipient's brew style or roast preferences because you can pick a subscription length, gift it, and then let Trade take care of identifying and shipping their new favorite coffee every month. I have been a long-term customer due to the fair pricing and obvious convenience, but it would be hard to say goodbye to Trade's roasted to order fulfillment setup. They ship my coffee right after it gets roasted, so by the time it arrives, it is in its prime. If you're ready to cross the last couple gifts off of your list, Trade is currently offering their best savings of the year on gift subscriptions right now. Visit drinktrade.com/Shaquille to send a personalized coffee subscription to family, friends, coworkers, and lovers in a matter of minutes. That's drinktrade.com/Shaquille for an extra juicy discount.